Bidi online event of May 13, 2023. Excerpt, You are not this body. Sister. Hello Bidi, hello everyone. Bidi. Hello. Sister. What I see in myself is that I still identify with the body. I continue to project rather painful scenarios. I am aware of it and I feel that I have a hard time giving up. It is like giving up on life if I choose to let go completely. Well, what can you tell me about that? Bidi. So, I can tell you different things. When you affirm that you have the impression that if you renounce this body or this character, you lose your life, I answer you that it is exactly the opposite. As long as you remain identified with something that is false, with something that is only passing away, which is the case with your body and your history, because I remind you that, as soon as you sleep, there is neither body nor story, you are missing out on life. There is therefore a totally erroneous belief which consists in believing that life is linked to the body and to history. Life cannot be tied to a body or a story. Life is the whole of the dream, the whole of what is manifested, and not at all what is seen and perceived through the particularism of what is called a person. The first major error is precisely to be identified with this body. You are in this body, but you are not this body. This is the first thing that you must affirm without rest and without stopping. I am not this body, but I am in this body. And this can be accepted by any ego. The mind does everything so that there is a false identification with this body as with this story. It is your duty as well as your freedom to affirm, and I do say to affirm, that you are not this body, and this simple affirmation will then allow you to live within the observer. The observer or the witness, as I said in 2012, is the first and fundamental stage which naturally places you in the witness, and therefore in the I am, and which will therefore lead with a certain training to the imposture of the I am and of the conscience. But this step will happen by itself. But the stage that you must create and achieve by your will is that of understanding, accepting and proclaiming that you are not this body. Because it depends only on you, and in no case on the intelligence of the light or the real of the natural state. It is therefore appropriate, as I had expressed it, to refute the identification with the body. From this flows the refutation of history and ultimately the natural refutation of the I am. But as long as you remain identified with the body, there is really a slavery to suffering, because the character is only suffering, whatever the joys and whatever the well-being he may experience at times. There is no benefit in being falsely identified with the body, for inevitably there comes a time when that bag of meat will get old, that bag of meat will be sick, and at that time you will be trapped by this false identification. I remind you that in my incarnation, I had throat cancer. I have never been identified with this body and therefore I have never suffered, properly speaking, from this cancer. At most I have perceived a small loss of completely normal energy before the death of this vehicle. You have to verify for yourselves that, whatever you experience in your consciousness, the main source of suffering is the identification with the body. You are in this body, but you are not this body. This is enough to make the observer appear, I repeat, and until this initial work is done, you remain subject to the thoughts, the story, the images and your emotions. Emotions are only about the bag of meat, which, what you call the soul, misappropriates. You are none of your emotions that you are going through. Pay attention. I did not say that they should be deleted, but that you should see them for what they are. It is the only way to get out of your slave state. Everything else happens naturally. Did you understand what I told you? Sister. Yes, I understood, but I know that, until today, I did not affirm it enough. I might say it, but without believing it, without affirming it. Here it is, to live it concretely. Bidi. The confusion comes from there. It is not a question of believing in it or not believing in it. I repeat, it must be affirmed. Sister. Affirm it. Bidi. This is the very principle of what I taught you in 2012, which I called refutation. Regarding this false identification, it is in no way a problem to believe it or not to believe it, but it is indeed a decision of who you are, and therefore an affirmation and an act of will. This is what you have to do. Sister. Yes. Bidi. Everything else flows from there. Sister. Thank you, I hear better now. Yes, it's really a decision, a will, an affirmation, that's all. Bidi. What? Eliza. A statement. Bidi. Absolutely. Sister. It's really a decision, an affirmation, a will, and that's it. Bidi. Exactly. Sister. I already hear. Bidi. It is the very foundation of the real. You don't have to refute the world, but you do have to lay the foundations of the real by this simple affirmation and this simple will. I am not this body. Sister. I am not this body, but I am in this body. I am not this body. Bidi. And nothing more, everything else is done spontaneously and naturally, especially today. And in addition, there is another advantage: as soon as you have affirmed that you are not this body, you instantly release the areas of resistance and memory suffering, linked to the soul, linked to habits and linked to memories. The body will itself become free, so to speak, free from your projected sufferings. You will find a relaxation in this body and, I repeat, the observer will then appear by itself. It is still valid today, and it is the only thing you can do with your will and your decision. And as it was said, at that moment you will no longer be your life, but you will be the life, available for what is, available for the here and now, available for the present moment. There will no longer be any personal illusory influence. There may of course be pains in the body, but these pains will no longer be suffering. This is the first step in liberation from illusion. It is perhaps important today to transcribe this because many of you have not yet discovered or experienced it. Next question. Sister. Thank you, Bidi. Bidi. You're welcome. Channeling by Jean-Luc Ayoun in French. Translated through Google Translate from original text at https://apotheosa.live. Many thanks to the Les Petits Mains transcription team.